Hi, this is Kyle from MotorcycleHabit.com, and today I'm going to talk about how much it costs to build a cafe racer. This is something that I spent tons of time researching back in my early motorcycle days, because that's the style that first got me interested in motorcycles. I had a brother-in-law who loved cafe racers, and he kind of got me hooked, and it turned into a way for me to pay for my college education as well as enjoy the open road. And it's what my first date was with my now wife, and so I've done let's see, 13 or 14 cafe racers so far, or similar to the cafe style. So I know what the costs are associated with it, and I know how to do it. I've come to be pretty good at it. So the first thing you need to do when you set out to do a project like this is set a budget for yourself. If you're single, then you only have yourself to agree with. If you have a partner or a spouse or whatever, then you absolutely need to okay this with them. There have been way too many arguments, fights, and divorces over financial issues, so don't blame me when you start spending all this money and your wife says she's not okay with it. Talk to her before, set your budget out, and then stick to that budget. So all of my motorcycles cost about $700 to $1,000 in parts, plus the purchase of the bike. And I usually spent anywhere between $400 and $900 to purchase the motorcycle. So I'm sure there are plenty of articles out there and websites saying you can build a cafe racer for $200, and their definition of build is very different than mine. When I say I'm going to build a motorcycle, I go through, as you can see in this picture, I go through every single system. I take the entire thing apart, rebuild every single piece, and it's like you're riding a new motorcycle. Those people who say you can do it for $200, they recommend you buy a cheap pair of clip-on handlebars from Amazon, throw those on, and cut off the back of your frame and put on a cheap seat, and they call that good. That's not what I call a build. They might, but I'm going to step you through how to do it for between $700 and $1,000. That's much more realistic. But the sky's the limit. If you want to spend $4 grand restoring your bike, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who will take your money. So the first thing is the tank. That's the first thing anybody looks at on your motorcycle. It's what catches people's eye, and it's also the most fun to do. It's the most fulfilling when you can do it yourself. I paint all of my motorcycle tanks myself. I do the body work, and it's really not that hard for the Saturday DIY project. I can paint a motorcycle tank anywhere between 70 to $100. So that includes sandpaper, wax and grease remover, Bondo, primer, paint, and clear coat. Those are the main supplies you'll need. We have other articles dedicated to just how to do that specifically. So look through our articles on MotorcycleHabit.com, and you can figure out step by step how to paint your motorcycle tank. But in this video, I just want to go over cost. So the tank itself is about $70 to $100. The seat. So I got all of my seats from a man in Utah that owns an upholstery shop in Logan, Utah. He's awesome. He does a great job. He even helps me design some of my seats. He did this one here in this picture for $100. I showed him a picture. He said, "Kay, what kind of leather do you want?" So I looked through all of his scraps, found a piece of leather, and he said, "Kay, what kind of stitching do you want?" He can do any seat you want for $100 to $150. And you might be able to find other upholsterers around the country that can do that. But all of the other ones I called in the area since I've moved to Mississippi, and other ones that I've looked into here, are about $250 for any seat, which for building a custom seat, that's still pretty good. There are some on Amazon that you can find between $30 and $100 for a seat. Next thing you need, if you're buying an old motorcycle to restore, you probably need new tires. This is a safety issue as well as a look issue. just don't ride a motorcycle that has old, cracked, gnarly tires. It's not worth it. Any motorcycle accident going over 40 miles an hour can be lethal. So just don't mess with it. Just get new tires. Your life is worth $150. So spend the money and get decent tires. Plus, it enhances the look of your bike. So double-edged sword there. You get two pluses for the price of $150. I always wait till tires go on clearance. I shop around quite a bit, and you can find some sets on Amazon. I really like Shinko tires. Shinko 712, I think, is the number that I go with quite often. Next is handlebars. So I mentioned earlier, don't buy the cheapest clip-on handlebars you can find on eBay or Amazon. Pay some more money and get some decent ones, because the last thing you want to do is hit your brake and your momentum starts moving forward on the bike. I've even done it. I'm speaking from experience here. The cheap clip-ons don't clip that hard to your front forks, and both of them went flying forward, and my handlebars ended up on the front of my motorcycle, and I was clamoring to hit the brake and stop the bike before I tipped over. So don't get the cheap ones. Spend more money and be safe. So next I'm going to go through a few pictures of different bikes I've done and how much they cost. This bike I bought for $200 from a roommate of mine while in school. He bought the project, took the entire thing apart, and realized he had no idea how to put it back together again. So I offered him $200. He said sure. I put it back together myself, and I think I spent another $600, $600 or $700 in parts, and made this beautiful thing and sold it for $5,500. This one I even got in a few magazines. I reached out to some people on Instagram and online, and they fell in love with it as well, and I got it published on a few magazines. So this one started life as a CB650. I bought this for $400 because the guy on Craigslist said that it wasn't running. Well, as you can see right in the middle of the bike, it's missing a key component. There's no carburetor there, so no wonder it wasn't running. So I bought the bike for $400 and turned it into this for another $1,000 in parts. I replaced pretty much everything on this bike that you can, and chopped the frame, made a new cool custom seat for it, and sold this one for $5,500 as well. I don't remember who I sold this one to or where in the country they lived. I believe it was a guy in New York that I shipped it to. This is the 1969 Triumph that you've probably seen in the back of a few of my other videos. It had been sitting in a field, so this is what the previous owner tells me at least. It had been sitting in a field since the mid-1970s. I found it online listed for $500. I told my wife we had to buy it, and she told me no, and that ensued an argument, because when you see a Triumph for $500, you buy it. So little did I know that when she told me no, she got her dad to go and buy it that night, and that was my Christmas present that next year. So that was a pretty cool present, pretty awesome wife. And I went through the whole system. The engine was seized, the transmission was seized. It was definitely hard to work with, but this is what I ride now. This is what I turned it into. Went through literally every single nut and bolt on this entire bike and rebuilt and repolished the entire thing, and now it runs awesome. It's got a few little oil leaks. There's a reason that Triumph struggled with their manufacturing in the late 60s and early 70s and went out of business. It is not the best motorcycle in the world, but is so beautiful, and it's so fun to ride. This one, this is another CX500. I bought this for $600, put another $700 into it, and sold it for $5,500 to a customer in Orlando and shipped it to him. This wasn't my favorite style, but it was a custom order. He picked all the colors, the seat, everything about it, and I shipped it out to him. So There is money to be made if you want to put in the time and investment and build it yourself. If you don't want to sell it, then just save you a bunch of money and ride it and enjoy it. Alright, so to learn more about building a cafe racer and how much it's going to cost, go to the link below, right above the comment section, and click on that link. Or you can go to motorcyclehabit.com/cost.